So today we're going to be doing an overview of my 2020 Kona process. I'm going to be going over things I like about the bike, things that I don't like about the bike, and what makes it a really good performing enduro bike. So we're going to roll some B-roll of the bike, and then we'll get into looking a closer look at all the parts and components. So for a front tyre, I've got the Maxxis Assegai 2.5 on the front, which gives me really good grip even in the dust and stuff. With this summer weather that we've got, it gives you really good grip, but it's really fast rolling. I've got it about 18 psi, which means that it's still pretty hard, so I'm not going to bottom out the rim or anything, but it still gives me insane grip levels. So one of the good things about the front is that it's got a quick release, so all you've got to do is take that out and that's your front wheel right off. You've not got to worry about having Allen keys or anything, which makes it really easy if you're trying to get it in the back of a van or something. You just pull this out and it comes out as one, and then that's the front wheel off and you can stick it in the back quick and easy. So the next thing we'll talk about on the bike is the forks, which is a RockShox Lyric. I've currently got it at 49 psi with 3 tokens, and I'm running my compression 2 clicks down from fully open. This is what I feel like gives me a really good balance between jumping and trails. And you've got your down the bottom here we've got the rebound. I've currently got it at 6 clicks, so it's quite slow, but that's what you want, because if it's the faster you go with the rebound, it means you're more likely to get bucked. Or if it's too fast on the front to too slow on the back, it means that the bike's going to loop out, which is basically where the front of the bike comes up at an angle like that and pops you off the back, which is not what you want. 3 tokens in, which gives you a really good balance, I feel, of not ramping up too much, but still it feels really progressive. I personally would have a Fox 36 over the RockShox Lyric, just because it gives you a lot more adjustability than just having rebound and compression. It gives you high speed compression, low speed, and it just gives you a lot more of tunability. But the good thing about this fork is that all you've got to do is you pump it up in here using a shock pump, set your sag, which is already on the fork, to 30%, and then you're good to go. Set this about halfway in between and then adjust up and down one to what you feel you need if it's too fast or too slow. Whereas the Fox, you've got a lot more that you've got to try and navigate with high speed compression, low speed compression, and it gets quite confusing if you don't know what you're talking about. So on the front I've got a small enduro guard. It's a £3 mud guard from Halfords. One morning I was racing and we woke up and it was pouring with rain, and I didn't have a mudguard on the bike, and it was a Sunday, so most of the bike shops were shut, so it was just a matter of trying to find one, and it works really well, especially with the clips that came with it. The tie wraps, you can just click a button on the other side and it releases them, so you're not having to try and saw into your fork or anything. So the next part we'll talk about is the cockpit. So shifting, as far as shifting goes, we've got the SRAM Eagle GX 12 speed, so that goes obviously down and this goes up. It's in really good place because when you're in like that, it's really easy to click up and down and you're not having to move around a lot. Brakes, I've got mine set up pretty high. If you can see that they're pretty high, especially up on my downhill bike, they're a bit higher up than my enduro, but this means that when you're gripping the bars, you're not having to put as much pressure on your palms, because if you can imagine, if you're down here, you're going to have to try and grab down there somewhere, and it also makes it a lot harder to find on steep stuff, that your weight comes a lot more forward because you're trying to grab your brakes. So the higher you've got them, the better, really, for me. As far as grips, I've got these ODI grips. I tried Supercaz ones on my downhill bike, but I felt like I had really bad hand cramp. A lot of that could come from braking positions, hand positions and everything, but grips play a massive part in it. So having nice soft grips with loads, no, it sounds silly, but to grip onto is a really good one to go for, and these ODI ones last really well and do the job. My only complaint about the grips is the fact that they've not worn very well on the sides, but the actual grip lasts a lot longer than the likes of a DMR Death Grip. They seem to wear out really fast and they lose their like grip and performance really quickly, and they're a lot more expensive to have to try and replace it every time that they wear out. But the sides don't wear very well, especially when that's the thing that you normally put your bike down on. It would be great if they were a bit more durable. So we'll go on to bars and stem next. So I've got 800mm wide bars. I feel like it's a really good length. A lot of my friends run 780 or 760, but I prefer the really wide bars. 35mm stem. I feel like it's a really nice balance of not being too short and not too long. Really good control, and it looks pretty good as well for it just being the one that came with the bike. It's a really good looking stem with the Kona branding and the Kona branding on the handlebars again. So I've moved the bike into the grass so that we can see it in the light with the colour. It's an aluminium frame and it's finished in this really cool purple, black and sort of red colour. It really depends on the light to how you see it, but as you can see there, the flake is so cool with the sun hitting off it, and the bike's finished with gold details all over. As I was saying about the colour, you can really see it in these sort of bits, just how many colours there is. Kona really did a good job this year with the colours. They look incredible. So the next part we'll talk about is the rear shock. It's the RockShox Super Deluxe. Again, I've got it set at about 145 psi with no clicks of rebound. This is a piggyback. This basically means it gives the shock support that when it's hot, like after a big descent or a long rough climb, this helps it cool down quicker, which means that your suspension works better. But I've got no clicks of rebound on just because I feel like it gives me a really nice balance. The rebound works that you go that way to make it faster, so that means that when you sit on it or compress it, it's going to pop up faster, and if you turn it that way, it means it's going to be slower. So you want a sort of balance in between, that when you go off a jump, it's not going to, when you compress it, it's not going to shoot up super fast, but it's going to be a nice balance in between. So one of the ways to set your suspension is putting the O-ring or a cable tie up, depending on what you've got, and you sit on the bike. You don't want to bounce on it violently or anything, but just enough to get it. And I've got it at 30% sag. You want between 20 and 35 depending on your riding style, so that's pretty good. And as far as rebound goes, you would put it to about halfway in between the clicks and go out on the trail and work out if it's too fast or too slow. So if it's slow, it's going to be really slow to come back up. See how there's a, when I compress it into coming back up, it takes a long time for it to come up, whereas when it's really fast, it bounces back up it instantly. So you want a nice in between, so something like that is still fast enough but not going to buck you when you go off a jump, because if you go at that, it's going to buck you, which basically means when you're in the air and you compress the shock on the jump, when you come up it's going to buck you forward, and that means you're most likely to go over the bars. But again, the same way goes if it's too slow, it means that the forks are going to pop up and this isn't, and it's going to shoot at you like that, which means you can fall off the back. So the same goes with the forks as it goes with the shock. You can run tokens in it, which does the exact same thing, that it doesn't ramp up as much, and I've got 3 tokens in it, which is the max that you can go with it on 140 psi. So the next part we'll look at is the chainring and the pedals. So as far as the chainring goes, I've got a 32 tooth chainring. The 32 basically means that the lower you go, the easier it's going to be to pedal up, especially with the 12 speed, with what's called the granny gear. It gives you a really easy climb up. So if it was like a 30 tooth, it's going to be easier in this, and then same way when you go up, if it was a 40 tooth, it's going to be really hard. So a 32 for me gives me a really good balance, that it's dead easy to get up the climb, but it also means that I've got a really nice balance in between, that I can sit in these sort of up to middle cogs that I don't have to be all the way down in the highest one to try and pedal in between the trails. So as far as pedals go, I've got these nuke-proof flats on. I personally don't ride clips just because I don't like the theory of falling off over the bars and still being clipped into the bike. And my feet don't come off the pedals with these ones. They've got really nice sized pins on them that they're not too big, not too small. And the good thing with plastic pedals is they look better for a lot longer than metal pedals, because they tend to scratch after the first ride and they can kind of just look a bit cheap and nasty, whereas these, I've had them on the bike from the whole time and they're dirty but they look good. So as far as the chainring goes, this is an aluminium chainring, which is good for a starter on the bike, but it's only lasted me 5 months. It's already worn out, so I'm having to get a new one, and I'm going for a steel one because that lasts a lot longer than aluminium, and it's basically going to save you money in the long run than having to change an aluminium one every 5 months. The steel one's a wee bit heavier, but it's a small weight difference for saving money. So on the rear of the bike, I've got the Maxxis Minion DHF. It's a 2.5, so it's the same width as the front. Slightly less grippy because obviously a back tyre, it doesn't matter as much if it slides around, whereas if that slides, you're going to end up on the ground and that's not what you want. Running this at 20 psi, so about 3 psi more than the front, but I feel like it gives me a really nice balance, but still hard enough that I'm not bottoming it out or dinking the rim. So on the back of the bike, as I mentioned, 12-speed cassette, gives me a really nice balance. Massive difference from going from my cross-country bike, which was 11-speed. Having that extra one gear on those tough climbs gives you a really big boost. Saves you a lot of effort as well. It's got the hub in it, which obviously sounds so nice. Really nice and loud. And 200mm brake rotors. These are really nice, gives you amazing stopping power, and even when it's wet you're not having to worry about am I going to stop, they always work really reliable. This is a name on frame sticker, and they're about £6, but I've not felt like they've really lasted that well because they've scuffed and stuff quite badly. They're waterproof and it's stayed on, but the actual design's kind of worn away after this time, so it seems quite expensive for what it is, and the fact that it's not really lasted that well. So we came to a stair set, quite a rough one, and we're going to do some slow-mos of the suspension and the rolling resistance of the 29ers just to show how good they are. So as you can see from the video just how little effort it takes the 29ers to roll over these stairs, and stairs are really rough, so it gives you a great idea for suspension. Apart from how much the chains rattle, and this is such a well balanced bike, and as you can see forks are taking most of the impact, more than the shock, but you've got so much room to move around on and it just feels so in control even at this speed over these steps. So in conclusion, I would say the 2020 Kona Process is a really good enduro bike for everything from trail riding, enduro riding, street riding. Anything that you want from the bike, it'll give you back, and so much more. With it coming in at £3,700 of this model, with many other ones to choose from, it's a middle of the price range, so it's a really good bike for its money, with very few things that I would change about it. I'm going to be posting a new video soon of the upgrades that are coming to this bike, of the things that I am changing about the bike just to make it a bit more suited to me, of my wants and needs from the bike, so stay tuned.